Welcome to Hyperfixation Investigations, the podcast where two neurospicy best friends take time 2 Saturdays a month to info dump their research deep dive of the week.
Lovingly produced and copyrighted by Wolf and Stag Productions.
Today's fun fact is, Edmund Fitzgerald of ship and song fame gave his son the middle name Bacon. This son, Edmund B. Fitzgerald, went on to co-found the Milwaukee Brewers in 1970.
Good morning, I'm Josh, and I'll be captaining this week's episode, The Edmund Fitzgerald, the Titanic of the Great Lakes. Part 1 of our mini-series, Songs About Shipwrecks.
Good evening, I'm Kara, and I'm just along for the ride. For those of you joining us for the first time, how things work here is Josh will be leading us through a mini lecture on the topic, and we will discuss and ask questions throughout.
Expect a lot of tangents. We switch off duties each week, so next week, expect Kara to helm the episode.
Now to our regularly scheduled program. Josh, what have you been hyperfixating on this week?
The legend lives on, from the Chippewa on down, of the big lake they call Gitchigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. Okay, to answer your question.
Yeah,
and maybe...
No, it's a good cold open. I appreciate it.
Thank you. But, to maybe conform to the format that we've had now for 26 episodes.
Weird.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, by Canadian singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot.
Obviously.
And obviously, I'm also thinking about the actual wrecking of the ship, the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Fair. I don't think it's something that Midwesterners know about. Which is weird.
I feel like I actually have to disagree with that a little bit.
But, do you think a lot of people in our generation know about it? It's not like we're taught about it in school.
This is going to sound wild.
Okay.
I'm more online than you are.
Yes, this is true.
Do you know how many TikToks I've seen in the last week about the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Really?
At least a dozen.
Is it because we're coming up on the anniversary, or is there always a lot?
Every end of October into November, it is always, suddenly, I'll just hear the I'll just hear the electric guitar riff.
We're not getting copywritten for the electric guitar riff on this song.
It's just my mouth making the noise. It's fine. Yeah, no, I really want to sing this song because it's really catchy,
Yep.
But I don't think we could get it past copyright. So the Edmund Fitzgerald really was a ship that sank almost exactly 50 years ago.
Yes.
In fact, if this episode does end up releasing on the day it's planned, November 8th, then that will be 2 days before the 50th anniversary of the sinking of that ship on November 10th, 1975. So naturally, I had to make my November episode this year about the ship herself and a little bit about the song that commemorates her final voyage.
Yes.
Because most of this episode will be about the ship and the voyage, but I will get into the song a little bit because how do you not?
So here's one of my things with ships that are named after men.
Yes.
Because colloquially we call ships she.
Yes.
But then you name them after men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense to name them all after notable women since they're already considered female in the vernacular?
You would think that, however, I don't really have an explanation for this.
I do.
Yes?
Misogyny.
Yeah. That's fair. I do think, though, it is amusing from a 2025 perspective on gender norms.
True.
To look at a ship named after a man
with female pronouns.
Right, because it's a ship. All ships are she. Why not? Although that does remind me of whenever there are other languages that have specific gendered pronouns for specific pieces of furniture.
Right.
How I always kind of thought, oh, that feels weird. But then
we do it all the time.
We do it to ships.
We just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So first and foremost, a brief bit of lore on the ship herself.
Cool.
What would eventually become one of the most well-known names in North American maritime tragedy began with construction starting in 1957.
Cool.
The keel of hull number 301 was laid on August 7th of that year by the Great Lakes Engineering Works of Ecorse, Michigan.
Before you get into this,
yes,
with the first dates already coming out, I also feel like what little I did know about the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is mostly rumored lore and the song, it's not, actual history. I would have thought this was a wooden transport ship from the 1800s.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Because, like, who's writing,
Folk rock ballads?
Right, about a ship from the 1950s.
Yeah. Gordon Lightfoot, apparently.
Yes. Apparently, yeah.
And it's a
like,
bop.
my uncles were alive. At least 2 of them.
Hmm?
And that's just weird to me, for some
Just
reason.
because it feels like it should be older?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Great Lakes Engineering Works of Ecorse, Michigan were apparently contracted by the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company of Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Huh.
Yeah. Which feels...
Are we going back to, like, East India Company?
It...
And the Templar Knights? And, like, weird organizations that are also insurance companies that are also not insurance companies?
Not quite, but it does kind of feel... Just kind of have that same vein.
Cool.
Of... This is a business venture by a corporation you wouldn't necessarily expect, because it is kind of wild that a ship's construction was commissioned by an insurance company.
Yeah.
But as I understand...
Especially a life insurance.
Yes.
Like, it would be one thing if it was, like, a ship insurance company.
Sure.
Right? I think they kind of cursed themselves with that, to be honest.
Okay, to be fair, now I don't know if this was, like, normal before they did this with the Fitzgerald.
Okay.
But they seem to have done this many times where Northwestern Mutual bought or ordered the construction of ships for cargo transportation, and then they hand over the operations of those ships to other companies. I assume for, displaced liability
yeah.
purposes.
Uh-huh.
But...
Who, us have a monopoly? No. No, these other companies that definitely have nothing to do with us run all of the rest of it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. No. There's enough legalese and paperwork here to separate everything.
Yeah.
They did permanently charter the Edmund Fitzgerald to the Columbia Transportation Division of the Oglebay Norton Company of Cleveland, Ohio.
That's a lot of Midwestern names all in one sentence.
Yeah.
As somebody who has grown up on the BNSF line and the Ogilvy station in the city, and
what a jumble.
That's a lot.
Yeah. The Oglebay Norton Company was then responsible for the operations of the ship.
Cool. Which does kind of make sense given that was Transportation Titan.
Yeah. Now, as you alluded to in the opening fun fact, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald was named after the man, Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Who apparently served a combined 25 years as vice president and president of Northwestern Mutual. Reportedly, he actually fought against the honor of having this particular ship named after him, but was voted down by the rest of the board.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I feel like another curse is that if you're naming a ship after somebody and they say, no, I don't want it named after me, and you name it after them anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, we'll get into the superstition of it all. The potential good and bad
Obviously,
omens.
I'm not happy that this happened and that anybody died.
No.
We'll get into that too, I'm sure. But the karmaic superstitious part of me is like, guys, come
on. we can get into the superstition part in a bit. But as a side note, Edmund Fitzgerald's grandfather and all 5 of his grandfather's brothers were lake ship captains.
Huh.
And his father owned and operated the ship construction and repair company, the Milwaukee Dry Dock Company. And there have been multiple ships in the Great Lakes named after various members of the Fitzgerald family.
Interesting.
So it was kind of an inevitable, yeah, you're going to have a ship named after you. Like, obviously.
Right.
Construction of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald took less than a year, with the hull being christened on June 8th of 1958. And of course, when I say the ship was christened, most people probably do think of the classic image of breaking a bottle of champagne on the hull of a ship.
Sure.
And that is what happened here. According to the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, the champagne bottle was broken on the ship by Edmund Fitzgerald's wife, Elizabeth. It did take 3 tries to break the champagne bottle, which I'm sure you know is generally considered a bad omen.
Yep.
Luckily, seamen are not typically considered a superstitious bunch.
No, not at all.
No. The launching was also delayed by 36 minutes because the shipyard workers had a tough time removing the keel blocks that held her in place. Upon releasing the ship from her launch slip, she actually was released sideways, so she slid sideways down into the dock.
Uh-huh.
And when she hit the water, she hit hard enough to send a large wave splashing over many of those in attendance and knock down a nearby grandstand stage. And, unfortunately, an audience member had a fatal heart attack.
Oh.
So all in all, not
a great start, guys.
Not a series of good omens at launch. And yet, Edmund Bacon Fitzgerald,
yes,
son of Edmund Fitzgerald, later claimed in an interview that that day was, quote, without a doubt, the happiest day of my father's life.
Aw, that's cute.
Right?
Even though he didn't want the ship named after him in the first place.
No, but it's still...
It's cute.
It's cute, and it is an honor. Understandable.
Yeah.
Regardless of launch day mishaps, when she launched, she was the largest of any ship on the Great Lakes at a whopping 729 feet in length, or 222 meters.
Yeah.
And a weight of 13,632 tons.
Jeez.
When empty.
So was this, what type of ship was she?
A freighter.
Okay. Was this Lake Superior or Lake Michigan that it launched from?
She was launched in Detroit, so that was either Lake St. Clair or Lake Erie. I'm not 100% sure which one.
If you guys ever drive through Superior, Wisconsin and Duluth, Minnesota, you'll see ships that look like this.
Yeah.
Going back and forth or in dry dock and stuff, and it's astounding how big these things are. And these are Great Lakes cargo barge ships.
Yeah.
And then you think about how much bigger the ocean ones are.
Yeah. Huge ships. With 3 cargo holds, 33 feet deep.
Wow.
The SS Edmund Fitzgerald remained the largest ship on the Great Lakes for 13 years before she was surpassed.
Nice.
Yes. Now, apparently the size of the ship was actually capped by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and no, I don't think they had any direct hand in the building of the ship.
Okay. Just like the permitting of it, sort of.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers specified that the MacArthur Lock in Sault Ste. Marie, which the ship would have to pass through to move from Lake Superior to Lake Huron, could not accommodate any ship larger than 730 feet in length and 75 feet wide. So the Edmund Fitzgerald was built 1 foot short of the maximum length and exactly 75 feet wide at thickest.
Good.
Yep. Size alone is not the only thing she had going for her.
Okay.
The Edmund Fitzgerald was also one of the fastest ships of her age, using a 7,500 horsepower steam turbine engine to achieve such ludicrous, unthinkable speeds as 16 miles per hour.
Yep.
Or about...
Empty or when there was stuff on it?
While fully loaded.
Okay. That's actually good for cargo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's about 25.7 kilometers per hour or 13.9 knots for our nautical units. The typical operations of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald was as a cargo ship, and its cargo, taconite pellets.
Taconite.
Do you know what taconite is?
No.
There is actually a difference between taconite and taconite pellets. Taconite is a sedimentary rock containing at least 15% iron ore, although it often has other impurities such as quartz, chert, and carbonate.
Okay.
However, many official listings of her primary cargo specifically label it as taconite pellets, which means that she was not simply hauling iron ore, but iron ore that had already been partly processed. Taconite pellets are made from grinding down taconite ore and magnetically separating the iron dust from the rest of the impurities, then mixing that iron dust with limestone and bentonite clay, before rolling them into 1-centimeter balls that are fired in a blast furnace to harden.
Okay. What are they used for?
It's basically a means of transporting higher concentrations of iron from one place to another, because this process generally creates a product that is 65% iron. So instead of a bunch of rocks that are at least 15% iron, no, I have now thousands upon thousands of 1-centimeter, 65% iron balls or pellets. So you can haul a lot more iron more efficiently in the same weight.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. I also learned a new vocab term while researching this episode. Deadweight tonnage.
Yeah.
Which refers to the maximum capacity a ship can carry.
Yep.
I, for some reason, didn't know that.
That's strange. I feel like you would have known that.
It feels like something I should know.
Yeah. My grandpa was a Navy man, so...
Yeah, fair.
That was I had that in the back of my brain someplace, but...
Fair. So the SS Edmund Fitzgerald had a deadweight tonnage of approximately 26,000 long tons. or around 58 million pounds, or 26.3 million kilograms.
Those numbers just hurt my brain.
Yeah.
Especially on a day like today.
It's a lot. And I will specify that long tons is specifically the old British ton measurement. And in shipping...
Oh, like T-O-N-N-E?
Yes, with T-O-N-N-E. If somebody specifies long ton, that was a commonly used shipping measurement that was based on the old British ton. However, 1 long ton is equal to 1.016047 metric tons. So it's barely different than the metric ton.
But of course, it does have to be different than the metric ton.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, because the metric ton is based off of kilograms, whereas long ton is based off of stone.
Great.
Right.
And then where does our ton of 2,000 pounds come from?
Because we need a unique measurement of tonnage as well. Why not?
This is the thing that always gets me, as I'm like, I'll watch a lot of British nature documentaries, and they'll be like, a whale weighs blah, 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 many tons. And I'm like, which tons are you talking about? Imperial tons or metric tons? They're different.
Right. And it's rare that they specify, but especially if they're talking about shipping, it is usually metric.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is the standard now. And just so we're clear moving forward today, I'm just going to refer to either one as ton.
Cool. Because they're essentially the same.
Yeah, they're effectively the same. So we're just going to say ton.
Cool.
The general route the ship traveled was from one of a few ports on the west of Lake Superior, and then she would travel across the lake to reach Sault Ste. Marie in the southeast of the lake, pass through the Sioux locks there to eventually reach Lake Huron, and would then take the St. Clair River to Detroit, either unloading there or continuing into Lake Erie to unload in Cleveland.
Okay.
And then sail home.
Nice and simple.
The mighty Fitz was considered the flagship iron hauler for the Oglebay Norton Company during her 748 successful round trips.
Wow.
Other notable nicknames, of course, include Fitz, Mighty Fitz, Big Fitz, Pride of the American Side, Toledo Express, and of course, following her sinking, the Titanic of the Great Lakes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The 749th would be her final voyage. This is also, of course, the voyage about which Gordon Lightfoot wrote his song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Surprisingly, while we know a great deal about the lead-up to the ship sinking, it has been considered one of the greatest North American maritime mysteries, because there's been a variety of theories regarding what was the actual cause of sinking.
Sure.
But we don't for sure know.
Huh.
Yeah. And we'll get into all that in a little bit. I think actually now might be the best point for the break, just because everything just kind of snowballs from here.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds
so
good to
when
me.
we get back, we'll get into the timeline. Before we get into the timeline of the final voyage, let's take a brief respite from the coming storm for our usual break.
For those of you who appreciate social media updates and episode reminders, please follow us on YouTube at Hyperfixation Investigations Podcast or Blue Sky at HI-podcast. That's at high-podcast. So go check us out on those platforms and follow along.
And please leave a comment or review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even on our website. We love to hear from you, and it helps us a lot. If you would like to contribute to us directly and help us continue growing, consider subscribing to our podcast on Patreon.
Welcome to November, folks. Can you believe it? We can't. You'll probably not be surprised to hear that as we go into this holiday season, we'll be a bit more fast and loose with our scheduling of episodes. We might get two released in December. We might not. We encourage you to subscribe and or turn on notifications for our podcast wherever you listen, or join our email list to be one of the first notified when a new episode drops.
Speaking of November, let's take ourselves back now to the November storm 50 years ago that saw that good ship and true, which was a bone to be chewed, when the gales of November came early. All right, the timeline of the final voyage.
Yes.
Mighty Fitz set out from Superior, Wisconsin at approximately 2:30 p.m. on November 9th, 1975, loaded with 26,116 tons of taconite pellets. She was accompanied for most of the voyage by another ship traveling the same route, the Arthur M. Anderson.
Okay.
Though because Fitz was faster, she generally kept like a 10 to 15 mile lead on the Anderson. Now, as an experienced canoe paddler yourself, where would you rather find yourself paddling on a lake when a storm hits?
Not in the middle of it.
Yeah. That's probably for the
not
best.
on it at all, but preferably not in the middle.
Yeah.
Or near like hidden rock formations that can happen in the middle of deep lakes.
Yeah. You kind of want to avoid all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The deeper the water is, it can get unpredictable
Yeah.
real fast.
And the Great Lakes are big.
Yeah.
You know.
Lake Superior is well named. Oh, I might have to double check this. I believe Lake Superior has greater water volume than the other 4 Great Lakes combined.
I feel like that's right.
But you know what? Live fact checking.
Live fact checking.
Lake Superior volume.
That is one of the interesting, I think, cultural differences growing up in the Midwest, just while you're live fact checking this, is growing up literally attached essentially to giant cauldrons of fresh water. You know, when you hear about a lot of this fresh water issues and water shortages, and it's definitely a privilege of the Midwest to grow up anywhere near enough to the lakes to get your water from the lakes.
Yeah.
Too, you know?
Yeah, because like we get our water from Lake Michigan. Yes. The Great Lakes in total, including Lake Superior, have about 5,439 cubic miles of water. Lake Superior has about 2,903 cubic miles of water. So that accounts for just over half of all the water in all the Great Lakes. So without Lake Superior, that's 2,536 cubic miles of fresh water in the other 4 lakes. And then additionally, there is enough water. Lake Superior contains 3 quadrillion gallons, approximately, which is enough to flood all of North and South America in a depth of 1 foot.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And Lake Superior contains 10% of the Earth's fresh surface water.
Yeah. Just in one lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to, you don't want to be out on the middle.
No.
So, Captain Ernest M. McSorley of the Fitz knew weather conditions were likely to turn sour. So, he and the captain of the Anderson had agreed to sail together along a more northerly route to be better protected from the worst of any violent weather.
Okay.
November is also known as the month of storms in the Great Lakes region.
Yep.
So both ships' captains were used to sailing through similar conditions at this time of year, knew what to expect, and the weather turning for the worse was not a surprise.
Right. It was pretty commonplace, and they would have had a lot of experience with it.
Oh, yeah, especially Captain Ernest M. McSorley being a Great Lakes sailor for 44 years.
Right.
Throughout the day of November 10th, the storms worsened, winds reportedly reaching 58 knots, or 66.7 miles per hour.
Ouchie.
Or 107 kilometers per hour. And while the day began with waves up to 16 feet, the waves after 5 p.m. were reported by Captain Cooper of the Anderson as reaching up to 25 feet easily.
Oh, that's like beyond Whitecaps. That's going over the hulls of a lot of ships.
Yeah,
Height.
It's getting real dangerous.
That's a 2-story house height.
Yeah.
Waves.
7.6 meters.
Yeah.
I will note that many people will often talk about the waves as reaching 35 feet. And as far as I'm aware, that is likely accurate. That figure seems to come from a 2005 computer simulation run by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, based upon the known factors and conditions of the weather as recorded by a variety of sources at that time.
Okay.
That NOAA simulation specifically stated that approximately 1 in 100 waves would likely have reached 36 feet, and 1 in 1,000 waves would have been capable of reaching 45 feet.
Yeah, so that's like those scary videos of ships out on the Southern Ocean.
Yep.
That are just being completely roiled and battered. That's that on Lake Superior.
Yeah, on a freshwater lake.
Yeah, it's casual.
Truly horrifying. With wind gusts, mind you, of up to 86 miles per hour, or 75 knots, or 138 kilometers per hour.
Fun.
Which is truly hurricane force winds.
Yeah.
So, Captain Cooper of the SS Arthur M. Anderson reported that at 3:15 p.m., he noted that the Fitzgerald was too close for comfort to the 6-fathom shoal while rounding Caribou Island. A shoal typically refers to a sandy ridge underwater.
Okay.
And since a single fathom is 6 feet, 6-fathom shoal sounds like it should be an area where the sandy ridge is known to reduce the water depth to as little as 36 feet, right?
Okay, yeah.
For some reason, the name isn't accurate.
Cool.
6-fathom shoal is actually a shallow reef, more than a mile long, and its shallowest point is only 11 feet.
Oh, God.
That
is not deep enough for a big ship. I know that much.
No. Now, I don't know the variety of its depths because, of course, a reef is not going to necessarily be the same
Right.
depth the whole way.
Especially not one that large.
No. Now, as far as I'm aware, there is no evidence that the Fitzgerald actually struck the reef. In fact, multiple experts have, on multiple occasions, stated that there isn't enough damage on the places one would expect on the ship, nor was there any noticeable recent damage to the reef to indicate being struck.
Okay.
But since it is something that Captain Cooper noted, it has remained a rumored possibility as a potential contributing factor.
Okay.
Either way, at 3:30 p.m., only 15 minutes later, Captain McSorley radioed the Anderson, reporting, "Anderson, this is Fitzgerald. I have sustained some topside damage. I have a fence rail laid down, 2 vents lost or damaged, and a list. I'm checking down. Will you sail by me till I get to Whitefish?"
Okay.
Topside damage, not uncommon in a storm like that.
Sure.
Checking down just means they're slowing down a little bit. They're reducing their speed so the Arthur M. Anderson can catch up to them a
and
little bit.
Actually be by it the whole time instead of 10 or 15 miles behind it.
They stayed still a good distance behind, but I think they reached maybe 9.5 miles at closest, or at least towards the end of the Fitz's voyage.
Right.
And Whitefish, just referring to Whitefish Bay, where they would reach Sault Ste. Marie and be more protected by the bay.
Mm-hmm.
The weather would be less dangerous.
Sure.
At 4:10 p.m., the Fitzgerald requested radar assistance for the remainder of their voyage, as both of their radars had been knocked out by the storm.
Oof.
Their primary and their backup.
Yikes.
At 6:55 p.m., the Anderson is struck by a huge rolling wave from behind that damages one of their lifeboats. And they were then hit by another, similarly maybe 35-ish foot wave, and watched both waves continue ahead towards the Fitz.
Oh.
Now, mind you, it's November. 7 p.m., it's dark.
Yeah, it's pitch black by then.
Not to mention the storm.
Yeah.
7:10 p.m., the Anderson is about 10 miles behind the Fitz. They make radio contact for what would be the final time.
Mm.
The conversation begins with confirming that the Fitzgerald has slowed her engine slightly, as it is just safer in these weather conditions, and the Anderson giving the Fitz some radar assistance. But the conversation famously ended with, quote, "By the way, Fitzgerald, how are you making out with your problems?" "We are holding our own." "Okay, fine, I'll be talking to you later."
And that was it?
That was it.
Yikes, that gave me chills, dude.
It is depressingly optimistic
Yeah.
to see that mere minutes before the sinking, we are holding our own.
Right.
Throughout the worst of the storm, the Anderson would occasionally lose the Fitz on their radar, as well as losing any visual of them, because, again, the choppy seas interfere with being able to visually see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it also interferes with radar being able to detect anything accurately either. So occasionally, they would lose their blip on the radar, they'd come back a minute later, lose them again, come back. At 7:20, the Fitz went out of sight both visually and on radar for the last time.
Mm.
It is about this time, only 17 miles from the safety of Whitefish Bay, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald went down with all 29 hands aboard, sinking to their final resting place more than 500 feet below the surface. After 2 minutes of not returning on their scopes, the Anderson tried unsuccessfully to hail the Fitz on the radio, at which point they alerted the Coast Guard.
Right.
But since they were busy, still looking for another overdue boat, they couldn't begin their search procedures until nearly 8 p.m. Not to mention the storm.
Right.
After discussing search operations with the Coast Guard multiple times, the Anderson herself ends up turning around from the safety of Whitefish Bay and becomes the lead search vessel.
Oh, geez.
Though their initial search only found 2 empty lifeboats and some smaller debris. And I believe reportedly an oil slick, but sources vary.
Okay.
The following morning, November 11th, the Mariners Church in Detroit holds a memorial mass for the 29 dead, tolling the church bell 29 times. This actually becomes an annual service to commemorate their passing. November 14th, a U.S. Navy airplane is able to detect a magnetic anomaly underwater near where the Fitzgerald went out of sight, though they didn't actually get final confirmation that that was indeed her until May of the following year, 1976. At that point, they were finally able to send down a team underwater to take hundreds of photographs and tons of video of the wreck, where the words SS Edmund Fitzgerald could be clearly seen on the bow. Now, as for the multiple theories regarding how the ship sunk,
Right.
the ship was found in 2 pieces near each other, about 170 feet apart.
You start seeing the Titanic references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 2 main pieces is, I think, one of the big things that leads to that comparison.
Sure. It takes a lot to break a boat like that, too.
It does.
Especially because it is like a steel cargo ship. It's not it's not a wood boat from the 1800s.
Right. Although, we'll get into that in a second, literally just a second here. Because the ship was found in 2 pieces near each other, about 170 feet apart or 52 meters, according to the initial searchers, the original thought was that the ship had found herself with the very front riding one large wave and the very back riding another large wave.
Oh.
Right. So the middle would have actually been
completely
completely
those 2 waves
unsupported.
that hit the Anderson.
Right. Potentially those 2.
But something like that situation, potentially.
Right.
And then the middle is just floating.
Right.
And that's not how ships are meant to, middles of ships are not meant to float in the air.
No.
No.
And again, huge cargo ship carrying 26,000 tons of iron ore.
Right.
It's going to be sagging heavily in the middle.
Yeah.
That would be enough probably to snap her in half.
Oh.
The other contributing factor, of course, being if there was ever a moment, which there probably were, where the Fitz was riding a single wave and the center of the ship was on just the top of a single wave with the bow and stern, the front and back, sticking out into the air over nothing.
Right.
That's going to cause what is called hogging, which is
going like, I'm making this hand motion like you guys can see me, but essentially it's creating wear when it's centered on one wave. The front and back are being pulled down by gravity.
Right.
And then when it's up on 2 waves, the center is being pulled down by gravity. So it's like a seesaw effect somewhat on the center of the ship, which is also the weakest point of the ship.
That, again, with those 2 extremes of possible scenarios, it's going to cause a lot of stress to the center of the ship.
And it was not a new ship.
But
I
don't remember where I saw this, but in at least one spot of my research, somebody had mentioned that, well, every cargo ship is built to last a century. I mean, of course, however. A century of good conditions, not a century of your center mass being seesawed back and forth by gravity. Right. That requires a lot of maintenance. Now, I believe she had been checked over maintenance-wise by, I think it was the Coast Guard 2 weeks prior. Again, that was from my original notes. I don't have it here in my episode outline, but I believe I'm remembering that correctly. So it's not like she wasn't undergoing inspection constantly.
Of course.
It's just
it wasn't like a negligence thing. It was just a freak thing.
And by the way, the the opposite of sagging, where the middle
Yeah.
of the ship is actually popping up and the front and back being pulled down, is known as hogging.
So sagging and hogging.
Yes. I
Cool.
don't know why hogging, but yes, sagging and hogging.
Mariners' terms always come from weird places, so who knows?
It's, yeah, they do. In July of 1977, the U.S. Coast Guard published an official findings report suggesting that the cargo holds of the Fitz had slowly flooded over the course of hours because of the crew's failure to seal the cargo hatches effectively.
Mm.
Now, this was, of course, highly disputed by the Lake Carriers Association, who managed to get the National Transportation Safety Board to conduct their own analysis,
jeez.
and their conclusion was that the collapse of the main hatchways over the cargo hold did occur, but only as a result of the pressure that may have been delivered by a tremendous wave.
Okay.
That the collapse of the cargo holds would likely have occurred, or like the cargo hatch
Sure.
above them would have likely occurred after the Fitz was already partly underwater.
Okay.
So other theories over the years have been similar. I've already mentioned the previously generally discredited theory that she briefly ran aground or otherwise raked the top of that reef,
Mm-hmm.
which, if true, would have damaged the underside a little bit and either just weakened the center even more
Yeah.
or potentially allowed for flooding throughout. Either way, the Fitz went down fast,
Right.
right? Now, some will also point to potentially flooded ballasts due to the topside damage as a reason she sank so quickly if her bow went under a large wave.
Sure.
The NOAA simulation I mentioned earlier
Which
is...
the ballasts are like the flotation areas.
Yeah, like
the-
additional
yeah.
flotation segments that usually have... It depends on where on the ship they're located.
Yeah.
But if there was significant topside damage, it's possible that they had been breached, or that even some of them had been breached, which would have exacerbated conditions if her bow then goes under a large wave.
Right.
Which the NOAA simulation I mentioned earlier is usually referenced regarding the possibility that the waves may have simply been large enough that she may have just been rolling with the waves and either tipped down and basically fallen nose first into a wave that then pushed her under, or those waves from behind may have been enough.
Right.
This has also been examined or expanded at times to discuss rogue waves, which sometimes also known as freak, killer, or monster waves,
Okay.
which are basically just waves that are unexpectedly much larger than any of the others nearby in very choppy seas.
Yeah.
On Lake Superior in particular, there is maritime folklore of the Three Sisters.
Oh, okay. That rings bells to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Interesting.
Who knows? Who knows? Between my grandfather and my father, there's a lot of random bits of Midwestern lore in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. The Three Sisters refers to a grouping of up to 3, usually, rogue waves that may pound a ship one right after the other.
Right.
That, again, seems to be more specifically a Lake Superior thing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason in maritime folklore. Now, part of the reason that I think rogue waves tend to get brought up, at least potentially more nowadays than I have seen in older research, though that may just be based on where I'm looking. It appears that a 2010 episode of Dive Detectives
Okay.
went to the National Research Council's Institute for Naval Technology in St. John's, Canada, and put a scale model of the Fitz into a large water tank simulation of the weather from that night.
Uh-huh.
And that simulation, at least, indicated the possibility
Of rogue
Of-
waves.
rogue waves up to 56 feet.
Jeez.
Yes. The last well-known possibility is that she may have simply broken up into 2 pieces under the immense stress of the storm and then sunk after breaking apart. Like, not
Right.
necessarily due to hogging and sagging, but, well, hogging and sagging would have been a huge factor, but that just as part of the storm, at some point, instead of rising up with the next wave, the front did and the back did not.
Right. Kind of just pulled apart and then
Right.
sunk. Yeah.
And this is typically based upon partly a worker from the company that built the Fitz stating that he believed the ship needed more reinforcement, especially in the middle, to account for the repeated bending of the superstructure in choppy seas,
Right.
as well as analyses of the spread of taconite pellets surrounding the wreckage, indicating that it may have sunk in 2 pieces instead of sinking as one and then breaking apart on the seafloor,
Sure. Okay.
right? So
That's an interesting.
right.
Was any of the taconite pellet recovered?
You know, that's a great question. I don't.
Because that seems like a lot of
No.
ore for them to just leave at the bottom of the lake.
Yes, but you have to remember it is also really expensive to pull anything up from the deep.
For sure.
So-
Especially something that's heavy like that. But
I don't know if it would ever have been cost effective to do so.
Yeah.
However, she sank. The final legal dive
yeah.
to the shipwreck took place in 1995, where the ship's bell was removed and restored
Oh,
to be placed in the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum on Whitefish Point,
yeah.
17 miles from where she sank.
Right. And the intended final destination of that night.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bell was actually replaced on the ship by a replica that had been engraved with all the names of the 29 men who went down with the ship.
Humans are such nostalgic creatures.
Yes.
I love that about us.
It's such a weirdly, uniquely human thing
Yeah.
to go, all right, let's engrave the names of those fallen on a replica and put it there. All right, that's now a grave site. And we'll take the original, put it in a museum up here,
Yeah.
all as part of commemorating and honoring and remembering.
Yeah. So, how do we get to the song?
That's a great question. I will say, there isn't too much I need to say about the song,
Yeah.
but I do have to say at least something, because of course, this is, the song is the reason I think about this ship every November.
Right.
And in general, I think it's just a great haunting lamentation.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Canadian folk rock singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot released The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald as part of his 1976 album, Summertime Dream.
I didn't realize it was so, like, on top of when it was all actually going down.
Oh, yeah.
That it was only, like, a year later or whatever.
It was less than a
Less
year
than a
later.
year,
It was
yeah.
August of that year. Quick turnaround, because it was...
I would have totally thought it would have happened in the 80s.
Right, well, it feels like it should have, just because it was so immediate.
Right.
But no, he was inspired to write about it almost immediately, partly because of the November 24th, 1975 issue of Newsweek magazine, which ran an article titled The Cruelest Month, which detailed the sinking of the Fitz.
Right.
And that article actually begins with, quote, according to a legend of the Chippewa tribe, the lake that they once called Gitchigumi, quote, never gives up her dead, end quote.
Love it.
Which should sound strikingly similar to the opening lines.
I love sampling in music. It's great.
Right. Well, especially having to sample a news article.
Yeah.
Or a magazine article. Yeah, why not?
It is a poetic line, though.
Oh,
There's
no,
no
it
doubt.
is.
I love it.
I have a couple things about that I'm going to get to
Yes.
right now.
And we'll also link the Spotify for this song on the website for people to go listen to. If you haven't somehow not heard this.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a great listen.
It's so good.
As a note, the Chippewa is the anglicized name for the Ojibwe people, and their name for Lake Superior, which I think may be more accurately pronounced Gitchigumi.
Okay.
It's closer to that. Again, apologies, I don't actually speak Ojibwe. Gitchigumi roughly translates to mean Great Sea, which feels
Fitting.
accurate.
It's fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, Lake Superior really does have a reputation for not giving up her dead. Those that drown in her waters very rarely return to the surface.
Oh, for sure. Well, you think about how deep it is, and you think
Yes.
about how cold it is, and then,
But yeah, I mean, 1,300 feet at max depth
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Part of the reason that Lake Superior has such a reputation of not giving up her dead is because at her deep depths, it's too cold and oxygen deficient for most decomposing bacteria to do their work.
Right.
It's just barely above freezing,
Yeah.
like 34 degrees Fahrenheit.
So all the things that make bodies bloat and therefore float are not working down
Right.
there. Yeah.
So most who go down with their ship on Lake Superior will remain on their ship.
Yeah. There's something, my mom and I have talked about this before. We talk about it a lot more when it comes to submarines, but we do talk about it. I don't know if it's our spirituality or what, or being raised by a Navy man or what have you, but like, leave the dead where they are when the
Yeah.
water takes them.
Yeah.
Like if a sea or an ocean takes somebody, the final rest and what is it called? Is it the final guard that a lot of submariners are called? Submariners are called when they pass a final watch. I think it's final watch is when a submarine or a ship sinks and the crew goes down with them. They're on final watch.
Ah, okay.
And so, we were raised with stories about that. And it's just like I don't have a fear of bodies of water, but I have a great deal of spiritual respect for them because there are people down there.
Oh, yeah.
And their spirits, I am a somewhat firm believer, are kind of tied to that area. And, there's a reason big bodies of water are both feared and worshipped throughout so many cultures and all of that. And Lake Superior it's called Lake Superior for a reason.
Yeah.
It's kind of a prime example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Additional, interesting weird thing about corpses in Lake Superior. Many corpses in Lake Superior tend to develop something known as corpse wax or adipocere, which is a layer of waxy, partly decomposed fatty material from the body that forms a sort of second skin.
Sure, it kind of mummifies them a little bit.
Yeah, they look kind of weirdly soapy.
Yeah.
Which weirdly kind of helps to preserve them even longer. This region of Lake Superior, where the Fitz sank, is additionally known as the Graveyard of the Great Lakes.
Nice.
So the song actually does make quite a few correct statements regarding the ship's final voyage, including the weight of the cargo, the rough conditions on the water that night, the experience of the captain and crew, roughly the distance the ship needed to travel to make it safely. Gordon Lightfoot sings, "The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if she put 15 more miles behind her."
Right, and it was more like 17.
Well, it was 17 miles from Whitefish Point. I don't know where technically
the bay
they're drawing
starts.
the line at the bay.
Fair enough.
But it's close enough.
Yeah.
Mentioning the Maritime Church of Detroit tolling the bell 29 times to honor the deceased. And the uncertainty in how she sank.
Right.
Singing, quote, "They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water."
Right.
However, Gordon Lightfoot himself admitted many times that there is absolutely plenty of artist interpretation in his retelling of the ship's final hours.
Yeah, I mean, he's turning it into folklore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's taking this event that happened that nobody really knows a lot of details.
Turning it into a sea shanty.
Kind of, yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
And, part of that is just the nature of art.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But the other part is also, again, he released the song in less than a year. There was just a lack of information about...
Yeah, that's right, because a lot of these reports were not coming out until the later 70s or even into the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
So to his credit, he did actually start changing a few of the lyrics over the years in live performances, at least, to better match the growing evidence over time that the crew was likely not at fault for the sinking.
I wonder if we could find recorded versions of the original and the most recent updated.
I believe he never re-recorded it.
But that doesn't mean there isn't a live performance recording of it someplace, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
We could look into it.
We could probably find a live performance
It
recording
would just be
from
very
somewhere.
interesting in my brain to listen to them back to back and hear where the changes have been made.
Well, the two that I know of off the top of my head are, in the original, there is one verse in which he originally said, "At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, 'Fellas, it's been good to know ya.'" And in the later live versions, he started singing, "At 7 p.m. it grew dark, it was then. He said, 'Fellas, it's been good to know ya.'" So instead of saying, well, a main hatchway caved in at 7 p.m.,
right,
because we know that's likely not accurate, if it caved in before the ship actually sank, that would be more indicative of negligence on the crew's part, as the Coast Guard initially stated. That, again, is highly disputed. So to more accurately and better honor the dead, started changing the lyrics.
Yeah.
And the other is, in another verse, he used to call the Mariners Church of Detroit a musty old hall.
Oh.
He started calling it a rustic old hall.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do also enjoy that in his retelling, he refers to the storm as the Witch of November.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
It is great. It's highly evocative.
Yeah.
But it's also just an accurate historical maritime slang for November storms on Lake Superior.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't believe the storm actually came early. I think this particular storm hit sooner and harder than expected.
Right.
Like, I think it turned north. It was supposed to pass further south.
Sure.
But in general, I don't think it's, the storms came earlier this year. It was just this storm
Was a little earlier than they anticipated that
right,
day.
and it hit
but-
different than they expected.
Right.
Now, according to Gordon Lightfoot, he took the melody from some Irish folk song. He never, to my knowledge, specified which.
Yeah,
It was just...
It could be any combination of them, too.
Right. But I find
There
that...
are so many common melodies in Irish folk music
Oh,
that's
yeah.
like fair, you know?
Oh, yeah. But I find that particularly amusing because that melody of Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald
Yeah.
was later reused by Bobby Sands for his Irish rebel song Back Home in Derry.
Good.
Yes. The melody was also at least partly used. I'm pretty sure it was the entire melody again, though it may have been altered slightly for Denny's by the King's Musketeers.
Great.
Which is a wonderfully kind of silly song about a band questioning how they wind up at Denny's after a concert
Yeah,
to eat.
fair enough.
But I weirdly love that song. For me personally, this song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, just works really well as an emotional ballad about a ship that went down with all hands.
Oh, for sure.
And I really appreciate...
And that in and of itself, like taking an Irish folklore
Yes.
or folk song melody to write a song about that is entirely appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
You know, first of all, it's not like you can sample Irish folk music. It's been a lot of these melodies and harmonies have been around for so long, and I'm sure I will do an episode on that at a different point in time. We all know that's one of my favorite things, but
No.
no.
I mean, that's also the nature of folk music in general.
in general, right?
Is
So
a lot of it just gets shared and passed around.
absolutely, and keeping it in theme,
Mhm.
essentially, you know, is great.
Yes. I also just really appreciate that it keeps the Fitz in the public consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
because I find myself just sadly drawn to the song every autumn, thinking about the terrible loss that comes from all such shipwrecks.
Yeah.
I do want to note here that there are at least 350 known shipwrecks in Lake Superior, though I see it estimated often as being more than 500.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. With
I would pretty much believe any number you would tell me when it comes to shipwrecks in Lake Superior.
I'd be more willing to believe a large number than a small number.
Yeah, me too, by
Yes.
a long shot.
With more than 10,000 dead among them.
Yeah.
And a final note about the SS Edmund Fitzgerald herself now. There is a 50th anniversary memorial being held by the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society at Whitefish Point on November 10th with
Let's
an
go.
outdoor public remembrance, as well as a more private ceremony later in the day
Yeah,
for family members.
of course, because
Yeah.
it was recent enough that there are still family members, which
Oh,
again
yeah.
is just like this whole episode is just skewing my understanding of this.
Your perception of
yeah,
time
my
is a
perception of time for sure.
little... Yeah, time is a weird soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the song.
Mm-hmm.
Always am sad thinking about the ship, but
Yeah.
it is an annual tradition now.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Unless you have any other questions for today.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's a wrap on episode 26, The Edmund Fitzgerald. If you'd like to delve further into this topic, our research sources and related images are posted on our website, hyperfixation-investigations.com. That's www.hyperfixation-investigations.com. Thanks so much for listening.
Follow us on social media for updates and check out our Patreon to support us directly, join our Discord community, and receive other special perks.
See you next time, and remember, what's a little info dumping between friends?